Wow. So the past 2 weeks in gaming have been utterly fucking nuts, haven't they? I mean, seriously, over the past 2 weeks, we've uncovered so much dirt, so many scandals, so much wrong with game journalism, that at this point, I kind of almost don't even need to name any names. I mean, if one scandal winds up being false, if some of the evidence winds up not being true, it actually doesn't matter at this point. Because we've uncovered so much wrong, so many scandals, so many questions have been raised about game journalism that no matter what, it shows something is very, very wrong here. Now, if you want me to summarize, basically, questions were raised if an indie developer was sleeping with reviewers, and someone tried to post a video on that, and the video wound up getting taken down. When people tried to, question why was this video taken down, how is there a DMCA claim against this video, their posts were removed from Reddit and 4chan. Alright, when 4chan starts deleting posts like that, something is amiss. It was so big and so widespread, the sheer amount of censorship, that really raised questions. People were like, whoa, this is nuts. And look, sites like Kotaku and most game quote-unquote journalism websites are basically tabloid rags. If a game developer farts, they will write a freaking article telling you how it smells. That is one of the most apt descriptions of it. They would cover any other scandal in the gaming world. But this one, they were weirdly quiet on. We were like, what's up with this? Not gonna try to defend themselves? Not gonna respond to it? Everyone's staying quiet. There's all this censorship. This is weird. So people started looking into things. They started looking more and more into things. And they kept finding, this person is friends with this person is funding this person is a roommate of this person. These two happened to date a long time ago. And then we start getting into finding out that some of these reviewers actually work at PR firms that are supposed to help games get better review scores. Which I think there's at least 2 people now that have been uncovered to be like this, where they're advisors on how to get better scores. At this point, I really wouldn't be surprised if at least one gaming news site, probably Kotaku, wound up actually being a front for a PR firm. How nuts would that be if there was just a PR firm that secretly ran a game review site and it was literally just, give us money and we will give your game hype. They were literally just advertisers. That would be just comical. So, what do these game journalists do when they are accused of all being really buddy-buddy with one another, being an interlinked little clique of people with the same agenda and the same idea that all support one another and don't have any individual thought in their head? They write 10 articles on the exact same topic about how the word gamer is dead on the same fucking day. Gee, because that totally doesn't exactly prove our fucking point. And wow, is that amazing. Now, I've heard some people argue that they don't like the term gamer because it's stupid. I mean, going to a movie doesn't make you a movieer, right? No, it makes you a movie goer or a movie viewer. My argument would be that gaming is actually a verb. It's an action. The way someone, the way when you drive a car, you're a driver. Games, you actively interact with them. So because you game, you are a gamer. Arguably, player would also be a term, but player has a bunch of other meanings. There's other things you can play. Player's kind of the term within the game. So generally speaking, above all else, gamer is the term we've been using basically since the dawn of gaming, I think, or at least since the 80s, to define people who play video games, especially people who would identify as gamer are people who really, really like video games, or alternately the term hardcore gamer, but that's not why they're calling an end to the term. They're saying it's because this whole campaign asking for transparency and journalistic integrity and calling such things into question is really an organized assault of sexism and misogyny. And it shows that gamers are all a demographic of white men who hate women, which is kind of nuts considering how many black gamers I know. I mean, especially within the fighting game community. Like, wow, way to completely ignore the huge number of black gamers. They always get ignored. Never noticed that? That's kind of nuts. You know, also, that's ignoring the female gamers, too, and also the gay gamers, because it's a straight white male demographic. So they're like, no, gamers are an outdated demographic, and you, the game developer, you no longer need to cater to gamers, because gamers are bad, naughty people, and we shouldn't cater to gamers. Well, I'm glad you finally showed your true fucking colors. I've been waiting for that. Seriously, you people have been anti-gamers since at least Mass Effect 3. Yeah, let's take sexism and misogyny completely out of the equation. When I think of what a bunch of egotistical fuckwits game reviewers have become, I remember this video. I don't even remember the guy's name. Just the image of him walking smugly down the street, telling me that I'm entitled because the Mass Effect 3 ending is etched into my brain. The thing that astonishes me about this video about the Mass Effect 3 ending scandal was the fact that not a single damn game journalist understood why people didn't like it. They didn't understand why people were angry, why they felt cheated, why they wanted it changed. And the only way you could be that fucking dense is if you literally didn't get Mass Effect 3. After watching a video like this, I actually wondered, do you even play video games? Are you even a gamer? After this recent debacle, it looks like the answer is, generally speaking, a resounding no. These fuckwits aren't gamers. They hate gamers. They've been anti-gamers since this. If you're unfamiliar with why the Mass Effect 3 ending thing was such a debacle, it wasn't just the fact that it was a bad ending. The shtick, the gimmick of Mass Effect, the thing that made it so special was you made your own character and you made a bunch of choices throughout the games. And, like, you carried over your character and your choices from one game to the next to the next. So choices you made in Mass Effect 1 will affect Mass Effects 2 and 3. And that was like the coolest fucking concept. And as such, a lot of people played through all those games, plus DLC. The DLC choices matter too, if you got it. Played through all those games, plus DLC twice. A lot of people did it twice. Usually once male, once female. One going Paragon, super good. The other going Renegade, super not so good. And they were just excited to see the variations and the differences in the story. And they get to the ending. And it's basically the same ending no matter what you chose. All your choices, they didn't matter. Those hundreds of hours of gameplay, all those choices leading up to that moment, they didn't matter. They were just like, nope, here's the ending. Which was just a complete asshole that actually contradicts events within the game. And it basically nullifies the existence of Mass Effects 2 and 3. That's the most amazing thing. After the Mass Effect 3 ending debacle, all the hype for Mass Effect vanished. That was going to be gaming Star Wars. It was a huge thing. Everyone super loved it. It was darn well nearly the greatest example of what games could do as a media that nothing else could. And then they copped out on the ending. And because of it, we were like, well, there's no point. It nullifies Mass Effect 2 and 3 because they're not as good as the first game. The first game was actually like a legit third-person shooter RPG hybrid. The second and third one were basically just third-person shooters. You felt like there was way less freedom, like you could do way less. And mind you, the first one wasn't perfect. It had some frame rate hiccups. I had major issues with the difficulty and the balance. Like, I actually had to put that one on easy because I couldn't get out of the starting area on normal with the class I chose. Like, you have to just play the pure gunner. It was kind of sloppy in sections. But it was actually cool because you felt like you were exploring a world, getting to know these characters, and all that good stuff. And then 2 and 3 were just kind of schlocky by comparison. A lot of people bought them just to get a different ending in Mass Effect 3. And look at me go, I'm rambling about Mass Effect because because that's a good example of how anti-gamer game journalists have been? Because they all were whining about gamer entitlement. Not a single one of them said, hey, you know, this is what the gamers are saying in a more eloquent manner. Here's why they're angry. Here, you know, none of them comprehended why we were angry. None of them tried to take our side. All of them unanimously agreed that we were just a bunch of entitled brats and they just didn't get it. Because they just didn't get gamers when you get down to it. Then you have Dragon's Crown. Remember that with Jason Schreier and the Sorcerers? I wrote an article on that. That's one I found really weird too, because everyone leapt to Jason Schreier's defense. No one wanted to say that it was getting blown out of proportion and that George Kamitani had a bit of a point, except Kane. I forget his first name, but Kane from Forbes. He actually kind of defended him. I was really surprised how few people brought up the fact that, like, all of Kamitani's other games have female leads often non-sexualized or very lightly sexualized. Like, Dragon's Crown was a huge change compared to his normal art style, because his normal art style uses big heads and small bodies, because he's going for, like, this soft fairy tale look, whereas Dragon's Crown uses small heads with much larger bodies to sort of evoke the look of old-school Western fantasy paintings. And that's also a thing I've noticed with Japanese game developers. If you see, like, a small head and a big body, that usually means they're trying to mimic, like, a Western art style. You see it in Anarchy Reigns, and you also see it in F-Zero. Those are the three where it's like, yo, Anarchy Reigns and F-Zero are both, like, Japanese manga artists trying to copy the American comic book style. Which, by the way, I really love that look. I've heard some people really complain about the small heads, and normally I would, but it's just so different and so over the top because it's combining Western, stupid 90s comic art over-the-topness with anime over-the-topness and putting it together, and like I say, fuck reality. I like things that are just utterly nuts. Again, getting off topic might be because I'm a gamer and I like to talk about games. So you're seeing what I mean, though. That's another example of game journalists being anti-gamer and all thinking very much alike and all joining together. And I don't see a lot of variation in their opinions and beliefs. I frequently ask, do these people even care about video games? And it looks like the answer is no. They think gamers are scum. And, like, that's been the narrative they've been pushing, and it's the saddest thing. In the good old days, game journalists were like, we're one of you. We are gamers. We are alongside you. You might not agree with us, but we're gamers. And they were kind of our representatives. They were the people who took our thoughts and portrayed them in a more eloquent, consumable manner, who were able to understand what's a legitimate complaint and what's just fanboy whining. And instead, that's how it used to be. And now, though, it seems like they've realized they're not the greatest gamers in the world. Somewhere, always, somewhere out there, someone will be better than you at something. And because of that, they felt that I don't know if it's because of that or because a bunch of new reviewers came in or what, but a lot of them didn't want to just be, the gamer representatives anymore. They wanted to be better than gamers. They wanted to prove it. And they took this attitude of, we're better than you. We're better than gamers. Gamers are scum. Agree with us or you are scum too. And that is just fucking garbage. And now they've just outright admitted it. And that's the funniest thing with this scandal. When it first started, no one gave a fuck. We were like, this is a bunch of discussion about a sex life. Whatever, they have a right to privacy. This is stupid. People are being childish. Whatever. But I kind of had that opinion initially too. What's that? Nathan Grayson is, basically, you could say taking bribes from an indie developer. So what else is new? Would you like some Mountain Dew and Doritos with that? Gee, game journalism is corrupt. I'm surprised. But as it progressed, as it grew, as more problems were found, more people have gone, alright, that initial thing, that was kind of BS, but now I'm getting worried. Now, they have me mad. When the censorship started, that was a huge red flag. And now, the more it goes on, the more people look into it, the more people agree. And it's causing this backlash now that gamers are terrible. Well, now I definitely have to step up, because before I was like, I'm a little iffy on this. I'm not sure how much of this is really a conflict of interest. You know, some of it definitely is. Some of it raises some questions, but I'm not going to get involved. But I've been angry at game journalists for years now. It's the whole reason I started doing game reviews. That wasn't my initial goal. My initial goal was like to be a game designer or developer or something, but I kept reading all these terrible reviews, and one day I said, I'm no game reviewer, but I could do better than this, and I chose to prove it through whatever means necessary, and I feel that I did. And I've seen game journalism get worse and worse recently, and now it's like a joke. I've been like, do you people even play video games? And now, whether they realize it or not, they outright fucking admit it. They don't play video games. They don't understand gamer culture. They don't understand gamers. And they think gamers are horrible people. Do you have any idea what that feels like? The people who represent you, who write about you, the people who are the head honchos of your hobby, the community leaders or would-be community leaders, they hate you. Egad, as it is, it's bad enough that I feel like an outcast in my own hobby. And these people are pretty much telling me why. Yeah, they don't like me. They don't like gamers. We are outcasts to them, and we don't belong. And that is the most fucked up shit. Because that's the thing that unites us. The thing that unites us as nerds, as gamers, as geeks, is that we all feel like outcasts. Which is a message I don't think has been portrayed enough. A lot of people go, oh, well, you're all white, straight, heterosexual, male gamers. No. There's a lot of black gamers out there. There's a sizable portion of female gamers. And I've noticed a lot of those female gamers are really gender non-normative. And speaking of gender non-normative, a lot of male gamers are gay. A lot of female gamers are lesbians too. Lots of them, really. And then you have, like, the transgendered people. I mentioned this once in an article, or, video before, briefly. The person who made Gorf was actually transgendered. And they wrote an article about their canceled game Miss Gorf, which was at... Let's not get into it. You can actually find footage of Miss Gorf online, though. It's kind of Robotron-ish. But yeah, they did an interview about their canceled game Miss Gorf, and they mentioned that when they went to a CES all those years ago, they could tell there are a lot of transgendered people in the industry. That, there are more of us than you know. And that makes perfect sense. Think about, what are video games? What are comic books? What are movies? Those are escapist media. And who do you think would love escapist media? Would love to really, really sink their teeth into and get super obsessed with to a nerdy, fanish level in escapist media? Who would love that? People who have something to escape from. It makes perfect sense. So of course, all of these people are in the gaming community. It's one of the things that has pissed me off so much about this, is that no one seems to be selling that narrative. They don't seem to be going, hey, these people have been here a long time. They are your brothers and sisters in gaming. It's been, hey, gay gamers aren't represented. Make way for the gay gamers or you're scum. Hey, female gamers, they're not represented. Make way for the female gamers or you're scum. Especially the female gamers. Just, wow! They aren't portraying them as part of us. They're portraying them as an invading force, and if we don't bow to their will, then we're horrible, horrible people. Well, no wonder we react badly to it. We like our video games just the way they are, and we're not going to completely change everything just to cater to a bunch of newcomers. But if you want to say, hey, gaming gaming is potentially the most progressive media out there. I mean, really, think about it. What is it that defines gaming above all else? Like, what defines it from comic books and movies and regular books? What is the big thing? Interactivity. We could talk about choose your own adventure books. Those are kind of a thing too. But interactivity, choice, customization. The one experience that video games can provide that no other kind of media out there can provide is a customized personal experience. And that's what makes them the safest way to explore broader horizons. Because you can still have your straight white male lead character, but you could also let people play as a black woman or as a gay man. You could give them choices, and they could choose which one they want to play, which one they want to represent them. And if they're actually 3 different characters with 3 different stories, because that's another cool thing you can do with games. You can recycle assets and explore like the same story with 3 different people and see how their personal experiences are different. And gamers would do that for completion's sake. They might dive in with that straight white male character initially, but they'll play as the gay guy eventually. And if it's well written, they'd be like, oh, well, yeah. But above all else, it completely takes away the risk, because there's options, there's choice. People can be who they want to be, and that's something no other media can do. And that's why video games are the best leaping off point if you want more progressive media. They're a wonderful test bed. And nothing has to change for the long-time gamers, even if they are straight white men. There's nothing that says they can't have straight white male characters. There's nothing that says, theoretically nothing that says they can't have some sexualized female characters, but some non-sexualized female characters could be mixed in there. That's totally viable. If people came at it from that attitude, from a positive attitude, from a attitude of, hey, video games are good, but they could be better. Think about how video games, the things you love, could change the world. Think about why that makes video games so super cool and why it makes you awesome as gamers. Gamers would go, yeah, alright, yeah, no, I can get on board with that. A few would be against it, because, let's be real here, being a gamer and being a jerk they're not related. You can be a gamer, a long-time gamer, with a huge video game collection, and still be a complete and utter fucking asshole. And you can also still be a complete and utter fucking asshole without having ever touched a video game in your life. The two are completely unrelated. So yeah, you're gonna get some backlash. You're gonna get some assholes. But a lot of gamers that go, yeah, you know, when you put it like that, when you're thinking of catering to a broader audience, yeah, that could be viable. You could get on board with that. But that's not the route y'all chose, is it? No. Instead, they said, hey, gamers are the worst. The video games are the worst media on the planet. They're the most sexist, most misogynistic, most offensive kind of media in the universe. And everything needs to completely change. And you need to agree with us, or you're just scum. Get the fuck out of video games. Get out. We don't need any of you gamers around here with your liking video games. No, video games are bad and they need to change. Fuck gamers. That attitude, gee, I wonder why it's getting backlash. I wonder why gamers are getting so upset. And then, cause, oh my fuck, they love the passive-aggressive shit. And then just sarcastically going, well, it's not like we're trying to take away your video games. Actually, funny story, you kinda are. Because all you're doing is you're pointing to games that you find to be bad. You're pointing to bad things and going, this is bad! Look how bad this is! This is bad! And the implication, whether you say it or not, is that we need to get rid of it. We need to censor it. We need to change it. We can't have any more of it. Well, what if we want more of it? I go be blunt. I like Rumble Roses. It's basically softcore porn. Yo, all-female wrestling game, hyper-fetishized. It's pretty much softcore porn, the game. I like it. I know that it offends some people. Okay. So what? So what is when they go, this is the thing I hear a lot, which is, it's okay to like problematic media as long as you understand that it's problematic and we can't have any more of that. Well, that's where we're going to have a problem, because you see, I really want another Rumble Roses, because the first one was so much better than the second one. The second one introduced some really neat little features and stuff, but just did not play as well because it was rushed. There were blatant problems behind the scenes. So I'd really love a new Rumble Roses with better graphics, cleaned up gameplay, more options. Oh, I'd love a new Rumble Roses. But I can't have any more of that. But it's not like you're trying to take away my video games. You see what I mean? You see what I mean? We focus so much on the negative, on the bad, rather than on the positive. It's because of that I actually wonder if perhaps these self-righteous dickwads running these game websites even realize they're actually making the problem worse. Because they don't... Whenever I sit down with someone going, there are no good female characters in video games, they're all terrible, they're all bad, if I were to try to make a list of good ones, they would sit there, scrutinize every single one of them. If they ever came across one they aren't familiar with, they'd go, well, I've never heard of that character, so what does that tell you? What does that tell me? It tells me you've never heard of it. I mean, I get that the implication is that the game is crap, or not worthwhile, or it's not worth mentioning, but it is to me. So, what does that tell me? It tells me you've never heard of it. And the more I think about it, the more I go, that's the problem right there. You've never heard of games with decent female characters because no one talks about them because they're too busy whining about the negative, complaining about the negative. As such, the negative portrayals of women are the most prominent, well-known characters, and only in the negative aspect. More people are familiar with Ivy from Soul Calibur than are actually familiar with Soul Calibur, I'm sure of it. If I told those people that Ivy actually has a backstory and plays an important role in the Soul Calibur storyline that has increasingly become more important because she's gotten very personal with the Soul Edge, because, it's kind of in her blood. The implication was that she's, Cervantes' illegitimate daughter, that he impregnated someone while he was under the control of the Soul Edge. So, the Soul Edge's blood kind of runs through Ivy's veins, and she hates it, so she has, this innate magical power, and that's why she was able to craft her own whip through alchemy, using a shard of the Soul Edge, kind of fighting fire with fire, and why she's so after the Soul Edge and wants to destroy it, and Cervantes, because she has just all this hate for him. And she's the head Soul Edge researcher. In Soul Calibur 5, that's basically her goal. Is she's let me tell you about Soul Edge and how it works. She is in there. Darn shame Patroclus was such a bad main character. See, there I go again, talking about video games. I'm sorry, or should I even be apologizing? Because we should be talking about video games. But no, apparently that makes me a horrible human being. This is what I mean. Where even was I? Right. People are more familiar with Ivy has huge boobs and dresses like a dominatrix than they are with Ivy has a backstory and is actually kind of a character as from this fighting game called Soul Calibur. Most people aren't even familiar with that. They just know the boobs. And that's the problem. We keep promoting the negative and wagging our finger at it, and we don't talk about the positive. We don't even try to find the positive. And in a way, we can't. Because if I were to hold up a game and say, this is a positive female character, and I've tried this before, I would get shit on so hard because people would pick it apart. They would go, no, the clothing is too small, too tight, I don't like what she wears, she doesn't have enough agency, she doesn't talk enough, she's the only female character, or one of the other characters has huge breasts, or there's just a laundry list of things. And the one that got me running on this shit is, oh, well, she's just a man with boobs. The fuck does that even mean? I hate that one. It is so ill-defined, and the very concept of man with boobs is, in and of itself, sexist as all fuck. But using that as a way to discredit a character just boggles my mind. But whatever. I realize, like, my friends have been like, yeah, don't even try it. Don't even attempt it. And you know what? They're right. What right do I have to declare what is or isn't a positive female character? What right does anyone have to determine what's positive and what's negative with women in video games? None of us do. Like, it's personal, isn't it? What one person finds to be super positive and progressive, another will find to be negative and offensive. One man's trash is another man's treasure. One person's strong female character is another person's sexist piece of trash. There's not a lot of... it's kind of a mess, which is why you need, like, a variety of female characters. But then people get overboard, and just the presence of any negative female character is enough for them to completely discount the source material, and things just get stupid. And I realize, though, that they're right. I can't say what's a positive female character, because I don't have a single damn clue what a positive female character is. I've spent, like, 2 years, maybe more now, sitting here trying to decipher what a positive female character is. I'm still completely stumped. Because, yeah, they basically don't exist. Everyone has their own definition. Everyone has certain little pet peeves that annoy them more than others. To some, the personality is way more important than the clothing. To others, the clothing is way more important than the personality. And to some, both matter in such equal measure that they're border on utterly unpleasable. And it all just winds up tearing itself apart because no one wants to talk about what they want. They only want to talk about what they don't want. And eventually you get to the point where it goes, well, it sounds like you just don't want women in your games. And I know that's the most horrible conclusion to draw, but that's the conclusion one winds up getting to when the complaints are just this vast and varied. We are effectively just making a list of things that offend us. It's stupid, and I'm just rambling on too long. I legitimately think that game journalists, in their self-righteous fury, have made gaming more sexist, more misogynistic. I'm not even sure I'm going to go with those words. No, I take that back. Game journalists, though, just in their self-righteousness, they've made the situation worse. They've pissed off so many people. And the big problem, I'm sorry it's taken me so long to get to this. The big problem, and this is the social justice warrior mentality, and I need to explain what that is. 'Cause there's so many people who hear SJW, they hear social justice warrior, they go, what is that? Am I one? Well, here's a quick question. Do you use the word privilege as an insult? If so, then you might be a social justice warrior. But at its core, the term was coined to be negative, to be offensive. People have tried to Yankee Doodle it and co-opt it into a positive thing and identify themselves as social justice warriors because they're fighting on the side of social justice and change and positivity. But that's not what we meant. The term, I actually support the term because it was coined kind of so we wouldn't have to say feminist. Because real talk, feminists aren't the problem. There are sane, logical, rational feminists who are perfectly relatable. So he came up with the term social justice warrior to define the people who take it too far. Really, social justice crusader would have been a better term. It's someone who's a warrior, who goes out looking for a fight, who's trying to find people who are being offensive and goes, hey, stop that! And they are super aggressive. And the main problem with them is the fact that it's the self-righteousness, is the ego. It's the fact that because they are on the side of the oppressed, they feel they cannot be wrong. I support women in video games. This article is about women in video games and my support of them. It doesn't matter how fat factually inaccurate it is. It doesn't matter how accusatory it is. It doesn't matter how just utterly hateful of innocent people it is. This article is about women in video games. And if you disagree with me, then you're the oppressor. I'm on the side of the oppressed. Everyone against me is the oppressor. Everyone against me is bad. Anyone who would disagree with an article about how terrible women in the gaming industry community have it, they're bad people. And as such, they kind of dehumanize them. They feel that they can say whatever they want to these kinds of people. They don't have feeling. They're scum. So fuck them. And the result is something honestly worse than a troll. Because people who troll on the internet, they understand what they're doing is bad. They understand that they're just doing it to piss people off. But a social justice warrior, they feel they're on the side of social justice, of righteousness. And as such, there is no means which is too extreme. Everything they do is justified because they're on the side of social justice. They could be as accusatory, discriminatory, absolutely hateful, awful, mean-spirited people. And it's pretty fucked up, because the people who are real assholes will just turn you out immediately, and the only people who are actually listening, who are taking the shit into account, are people who could be turned to your cause, but you're being too hateful and angry and aggressive and mean. And they wind up feeling hurt by what you say. And they're like, hey, you're taking this a little too far. Yo, chill. And then, no! I'm right! I'm on the side of social justice! You understand? You're oppressing me! That shit pisses me off. I remember an incident that happened in Movie Bob's blog, and it was the most amazing thing. Someone got pissed at him for using the word crazy. The word crazy. Because it was apparently ableist. And people thought they were joking. And they were serious. They linked to an article on a site called What Privilege that was about replacing the word crazy. And guess what one of the replacements for the word crazy is? Privileged. Because privilege and crazy totally mean the same thing. Movie Bob was just talking about how he had wacky characters in crazy situations. So what? Wacky characters in privileged situations? The fuck? I mean, shit, Movie Bob's pretty social justice-y as it is, but this person just flew completely off the handle, and I couldn't fucking believe it. It was nuts. And my favorite part of it was when people said, haha, you must be trolling. They were like, the person actually responded with, you gamers, you think everything's a joke. You think, hand-on's razor all the time. You gamers. That's the problem with you gamers. Wow! Way to be a discriminatory shithead, you fuckwit. Wow! Way to just... They get so self-absorbed in how right they are. And this is where things get stupid. Because when you're that convinced that you're right, when everyone who disagrees with you is an oppressor, it means that you can never be wrong. You can never feel like you're wrong. Anything and everything they do against you proves your point. It doesn't... And as such, there is no negative reinforcement for this kind of behavior. You get into this mindset where you're convinced you're always right. You get no negative reinforcement, only positive reinforcement, and the ego and self-righteousness just balloons out of control. And these people just become horrible, awful people. Because they're so convinced that they're right, everyone else is wrong, fuck everyone else. And that's the magic of it. That's the beauty. can't even believe it. But yeah, that's what it comes down to. If people just become utterly delusional. I forget what I was even going to say. I was ranting so hard. Sweating here. I'm sorry, I've been holding this in since like 1996. I've had issues since the launch of the original Tomb Raider with how people talk about women in video games, because there were tons of women prior to Lara Croft. At least 100 games with female playable characters, quite a few that had female leads that predate Tomb Raider. So I never understood I understand the fervor now. It was a marketing ploy. The game was going to have a male lead. However, the heads of marketing said, no, this is too bland, too generic. Just some random Indiana Jones-y game? No one will want to play that. It'll get lost in the mix of all the other video games. They were like, hey, what if we made the main character a chick? Hey, that's totally cool. And so, more than likely, like, that part I think was actually said in the original Tomb Raider strategy guide. So, that was where people said, hey, I think that's actually how they marketed it to their bosses. I have no proof of that, but when they say that's what they changed in order to get Tomb Raider made, more than likely when they repitched it, they made a big deal out of, our game is different because it has a female lead. Which caused the company to go, hey, yeah, our game is different because it has a female lead. Causes the marketers to go, this game is different because it has a female lead. Then they tell the reviewers who go, this game is different because it has a female lead. And they don't really think about all the other games that have had female leads throughout the years because they're too distracted, and they just go, oh, yeah, Tomb Raider is special and different because it has a female lead. The marketing execs told me so. And they make a huge deal out of it, and it causes people to kind of think that that was the first female lead in video games, no matter how utterly, blatantly wrong that statement actually is. And I sort of consider that the beginning of the downfall. It's just gotten so much worse recently. Because when people accused gaming of being sexist and female leads being practically non-existent, no one just said, actually, no, there's been a good number of female leads, here's a bunch of them. They just agreed. Now, unfortunately, the other side wound up being, rather than being the side of actually no, it wound up being the side of yeah, so what? Yeah, so what is not the appropriate answer, and it kind of emphasizes the problem of the fact that no one knows that there are so many female characters in video games because no one fucking promotes them! Jeez! Oh, good lord, I'm sorry, this is going to be very, very long. Personal apologies. This is a long one. So, I was saying something about social justice warriors, but I think you get the idea there when you've thoroughly convinced yourself that you're always right and everyone else is always wrong, and you can only register positive reinforcement and negative reinforcement is utterly impossible. Yeah, people like that. They feel good about themselves, it inflates their ego, goes utterly out of control, and they feel good. But in reality, it's not about women in video games. It's not about making video games more progressive. It's not about actually changing culture. It's about you. It's about making yourself feel good and inflating your own damn ego. It is not about camaraderie or companionship. It is not about your brothers and sisters in gaming. It is about you and feeling good about yourself. That's a problem with social justice warrior fuckwits. And you can see it in the negative way. In the fact they only focus on the negativity. They never focus on the positivity, because the positivity could be called into question. People could say, that's not really progressive. That's actually kind of sexist. And there's no recourse. There is no way to say, I find it to be positive. So, they just promote the negative. They just promote the bad. Because it's easy. And they get to always feel like they're right. If everything is sexist and everything is awful and they're wagging their finger at it, what are you going to do? Saying, hey, no, that's not sexist. That's actually super progressive? No. If you think that totally sexist thing is progressive and positive, that just proves how deep the sexism runs in you, and you wind up looking worse than ever. It's a losing battle when you deal with these fuckwits, and the worst part is they don't even realize it. They don't know that this is what they're doing, and they're hurting. They are hurting women in video games, I think. Let me ask you this. Why don't we see more female leads in high-profile video games? Everyone will tell you it's because, quote-unquote, games with female leads don't sell. Now, they looked into this a little bit. They said, do games with female leads really not sell? And what they found was that they had lower marketing budgets. Alright. So they're going to blame the marketing execs. They're going to blame the developers. And they're not going to look at it and go, oh, wait a second. Part of that is because people... Look, here's the problem. The games that have the huge marketing budgets and the huge push and get all the press, the ironic part there, all the press, the ones that get the big TV commercials, those are the AAA games, which is ones I would define as games that are developed like movies. Those are the ones that involve multiple companies, hundreds of people. Everyone's involved with them. And with more people, you have more fingers in the pie. Everyone has some bit of the pie, has some control over the development of this game. And damn it, they want that game to sell. So if one person tells them games with female leads don't sell, they will go change the gender of the female lead or it won't sell and we won't make money. And people will do it. Because the cost of developing AAA games is so over the top, stupidly, unsustainably immense that if they stood their ground, if they released the game and it didn't sell, if it ran the risk of not selling, they go out of business. A lot of times. So many studios have gone out of business because one game flops. Well, yes, I am still angry about the fact that I don't have a new Time Splitters because Haze flopped. One game goes awry. One wrong game. One bad decision that causes your game to not sell. Hundreds of people, friends of yours, compatriots, the company you've built up over the years, goes under. You're all out of a job. You're all going to have trouble feeding your family. And the only games that can afford to have the big marketing campaign, all the hype, are the ones that have all the companies and all the people and all the money and all the fingers and all the pies. So, of course, people believe games with female characters don't sell. As such, the games with the big budget marketing generally have male leads. Meanwhile, the ones that actually get to keep their female leads are generally from very small teams, very small developers. They have a lower budget. They're much more humble. And, yeah, they can't afford to market themselves. And we see this time and time again. I've been paying attention to game releases. People love to say, oh, games with female characters are practically non-existent. There is a game with a female playable character in it released at least once a week. Not even kidding. But paying attention to that, I noticed that I would see a lot more female leads on Xbox Live Arcade and PlayStation Network and downloadable games than I do on games on store shelves. Lower budget games on store shelves tended to have female leads far more often than games that had a really big budget. And that would be the entire reason why it's just considered to be too much of a risk. Now, in order to prove this, we would have to find a big budget, high profile game with a female lead and ask how it sold. So that would be Bayonetta, wouldn't it? And unfortunately, different games sell different amounts. You can't really compare it to anything, but Bayonetta we're lucky with. You could compare it to Devil May Cry. It is, it's the same team that made Devil May Cry. It's the same basic kind of gameplay. I think Bayonetta's a lot better. But generally speaking, same basic kind of gameplay, same team. It's a lot like Devil May Cry. So how did Bayonetta sell compared to Devil May Cry? Well, it sold 3 million copies when you combine both the 360 and PS3 releases. 3 million copies. Hey, guess what? That, according to VG charts, I'm using VG charts, I know they're not the most accurate, but according to them, it was 3 million copies. And also, according to them, that was how many Devil May Cry 2 and 3 sold. Devil May Cry 1 sold the best. Now, that makes sense. It practically defined a genre. It was widely talked about. It was a very early PS2 game, so people were desperate for PS2 games. This game is defining a genre, like 3D action games were called Devil May Cry clones. And that all adds up to get people interested in that first Devil May Cry, and so it sold the best. Devil May Cry 4, first game of the series in the new generation. Again, early in the generation, people, they wanted a game like that, and it was one of the early ones, and so they hopped on board and they bought it. And so, yeah, it sold a bit better. I think it sold 4 million copies. However, here's the punchline. Guess how many copies DMC sold? The new reboot. From what I recall, it sold 1.5 million. Maybe a little more, but I think it was 1.5 million. It sold half as well as Bayonetta. But it has a male lead. Isn't it supposed to sell better? It got all this press and all these ridiculously high inflated review scores. It still didn't sell as well as Bayonetta. What does that tell you about women in video games? About female leads? I don't know about you, but it kind of tells me that it doesn't fucking matter! Kind of tells me that what we care about is a good damn game. Now, yes, there are guys out there. There are certainly guys out there who are uncomfortable playing as a female character. They don't like it. They're uncomfortable with it. It's kind of weird to them. They don't like female leads in video games. Those people do exist. But they're in a minority. You know who else is in a minority? The people who prefer to play as a female character. The people who find a female character to be a selling point. Who will buy a game just because it has a female character. I admit, I'm part of that minority. Female characters in games, kind of a selling point to me. I'm kind of interested in that. I generally gravitate towards games with female leads. I probably would not have bought Bayonetta if it didn't have a female lead. So, I feel that they wind up counterbalancing the minority that doesn't like the female leads, and the result is they even each other out pretty much, and the general gaming populace doesn't give a shit, they just want a good game. What? The other one's the new Tomb Raider. Didn't that sell like 5 million copies before they did the whole re-release and shit? Didn't that sell 5 million copies? It was really high. I hear it actually did outsell a lot of the Uncharted games. Now, admittedly, new Tomb Raider was multi-platform, but it was also game, female lead, AAA budget, heavily advertised. Yeah, sold well. Sold very well. Hey, Portal has a female lead. It's first person. And guess what? It actually did kind of pull in Call of Duty numbers. Pull of Duty numbers. It did pull in Call of Duty numbers. It sold incredibly well. Didn't it sell 7 million? It was like 5 million, 7 million. It sold stupid million. Portal 2 at least, sold really fucking well. I get that this is only a small sample, but again, AAA games are actually a new thing. They basically didn't exist in the PS2 generation. Like, Final Fantasy was like the only AAA game. The only thing close to a AAA game on PS2 is a very much new thing from the 360 PS3 generation. That was the birth of the AAA game. And, yeah, there aren't a lot of AAA games with female leads. But when they get proper advertising and when they're talked about positively, they sell. And what more can you say? But no one wants to talk about that. They just like to go, games with female leads don't sell, and that's bad. Shame on you gamers. That's what it always turns around to. Shame on the gamers. Because they're the ones that aren't buying it, except I just established we are. And this is where we get a real problem. Gamers are buying games with female leads if they know about it and they hear it's good. So the problem isn't with the gamers. We'll buy it. The problem is the lack of advertising. The problem is the lack of promotion and hype. And far too frequently, I do not see video game websites promoting games with female leads as being a thing. They don't talk about them. They don't promote them. They don't pretend. They pretend they don't exist unless it's negative, and then they're whining about it. And the overreach just gets comical. Before this whole thing started, I read a GameSpot review of Atelier Meruru, and it horrified me because the majority of the article is them talking about how terrible the game is because of the sexualized main character. This is the main character. This is what they're calling sexualized. Now, I understand the argument for that. I can kind of see it. There's kind of a cleavage window there. You can see a bit of leg, but at the same time, she's got a really short skirt, but she's wearing bloomers underneath it. And, I think I'm generally just going to say, okay, fine, it's a pretty character, but she's certainly not any more sexualized than your average Disney princess, and I have a hard time considering this character problematic, especially because, it's a female lead who is a princess trying to make her kingdom better through learning alchemy. What's more, the men, with the exception of the blacksmith in the game, are all smoldering hot pretty boys. If I recall correctly, there appears to be a bath scene with all the men shirtless. What am I implying? I'm implying maybe the game's primary demographic was actually women. You just completely missed that point. Now, mind you, it's the kind of game that has a lot of crossover appeal, a lot of cross-demographic appeal. Plenty of guys like it. I kind of like that. I thought it was a little dry, but I liked Atelier Meruru. But apparently, this was sexist, misogynistic, and offensive. This. And when this is bad? I admit I haven't beaten the game. I'm still pretty early in, but I have a hard time seeing this as being so bad that you should wag your finger at it and it shouldn't exist. And I see this time and time again with the games I play. It raises a lot of questions about game journalism and what they're doing for sexism and misogyny and all that dumb, just, oh, geez, my brain is fried. Turned off the fan so it wouldn't be blowing at me, and I've ranted so hard. Rant myself out. A little breather. So yeah, I kind of think that game journalists are doing more harm than good, and they don't even realize it. They don't even realize that they have split gamers and female gamers and gay gamers apart from one another. Rather than saying, we're all one, let's be together and make gaming, which is awesome, even better, they instead go, gaming is bad, gamers are bad, you people are completely separate, and they're not letting you in, and you all need to let them in. They've been in. They're part of us. They're one of us. And if someone would make that fucking argument of togetherness, of how we are together in being weird outcasts of a sort, of how we all enjoy this same hobby together, maybe this wouldn't have gotten so damn vicious. But you didn't care about unity. You didn't care about progress. You didn't care about making gaming and the gaming community and gamers a better people and place and anything. You only cared about your own damn egos. You only cared about the paycheck. You only cared about feeling better about yourself compared to everyone fucking else. You shitheads. You should be ashamed of your fucking selves! What is wrong with you people? Oh my shit! Just... You people literally do make me sick! These distraction strategies aren't going to work. We're going to continue talking about this. Something is rotten in Denmark, and by Denmark, I mean games journalism. Y'all are a bunch of hacks, and now you've just out and admitted you're not gamers, you hate gamers, and you think video games shouldn't be made to appeal to gamers. Newsflash, video games haven't been appealing to gamers. We've been pissed. You know what? Let's bring up something that everyone loves to. How about those white, shave-headed, middle-aged male main characters? Don't gamers just love them? Of course we do! Because we're sexist, misogynistic pigs, aren't we? No! Speaking personally, I actively avoid these games. I don't buy them, not because of some social agenda, but because I cannot relate to a white, shave-headed, middle-aged, male, straight character. Like, yeah, that's kind of me, but it's not me. We would be better suited with a stick figure, or certainly with an actual legit custom character. That doesn't represent me. I don't see myself in these characters. I see everyone else. I see what society wants me to be. I see what I don't want to be. And so I'm put off by these characters. I don't find them appealing or attractive or interesting at all. Now, I'm only speaking on behalf of myself, but I think a lot of gamers would agree. The only reason they like these games is because of the gameplay, and they just sort of roll their eyes at the characters. In the off chance one of these characters actually manages to be good, it's because of the writing rather than their lackluster design. You know what I find to be relatable? You know what I like? Fucking ninjas. Ninjas are relatable. Dudes who are part of an ancient clan that could transform into dragons. Those are relatable. Genetically engineered insectoid biomonsters. Those are relatable. Why? Because they're so not me. They are so utterly divorced from this reality that I'm interested in them. I want to know more about them. I might even want to be them, or be their friend, or just get to know them. Those are interesting characters. In the good old days, that's what heroes were in video games. That's the shit I'm interested in. Not this. Not this. This doesn't appeal to me. This isn't appealing, at least to me as a gamer, and probably a lot of other gamers. Because a lot of other gamers are just either like, whatever, or they're like, that's really bland. Most people would just find this to be kind of crap. The reason we see so many of these characters is because games aren't being made to appeal to gamers. They're being made to appeal to a wider audience, to the movie-going audience. And what do moviegoers... Why do we see so many straight white men as the leads in movies? Because it's safe. Because it's easy. Because there's no risk. And you can't take risks a lot of times in big-budget things. Because people will be out of a job. You need to make money. Everyone's here to make money, not to make you feel good about yourselves. So they go with the easy, safe route. The white, straight, heterosexual male with the shaved head. They, through market focus group testing, they found that the average person either says, yeah, I guess I can relate to that, whatever, or goes, not a lot of people are really put off by that quite the way I am. It's the reaction is meh, and meh is a better reaction than this is stupid, or this is sexist and misogynistic and awful. And that's the problem with female leads. Female leads are too risky. You put one in a game, it will be sexist and misogynistic. Because it dared to have a female lead. Yeah, run that one through your brain a few times. I know some people are going to go, no, you're wrong, you don't get it. No, I do get it. I know you have a very specific way you would like women to be portrayed in your game. I understand. But when people flip out this much over such minor things, whether it's the character's figure, or what they're wearing, or their skin tone or hair color, sexual orientation, maybe one line of dialogue, they said everything a female character does is under intense scrutiny. And one thing goes wrong. One scene isn't quite right, the whole thing is blown. Why would you even bother putting female characters in your game then? In your movie, in your anything, if one false move, one unfortunate camera angle choice, one ill-conceived line of dialogue can tank the entire endeavor? Be much easier to just go with a straight white heterosexual male character. Just safer, easier, less of a problem. I don't think y'all realize that's the message you're sending. Like I said, games with female characters, they're a selling point to me. They're what I want. And I'm worried about this conversation because I'm afraid that either A, it will result in less games with female characters, or B, the female playable characters will all wind up having the personality of a plank of fucking wood. Maybe a plank of fucking wood that cries if you're trying to be more human. I really, really hate the Tomb Raider reboot. I think it's actually a good example. It took me a while to formulate how best to portray this, but I think it's the best example of the actual sexism in gaming. I've said that I hate the people who like it, I hate the people who hate it, and I hate myself. I really have a vehemently bad reaction to this game. And a lot of it is because of the public reaction. Because the people who like it, will often say that it's better and more mature and more progressive and turns Lara Croft from a sex symbol into a strong female character. It can be taken seriously now. Because the story is so much better and deeper. And she's a more human character. To which my response is, really? Because the story seems just as stupid as the ones in the other Tomb Raider games. And I don't think giving her daddy issues makes her a better character. I thought she was actually very poorly written and came off as an unlikable, unhinged psychopath whose personality changes between scenes, which I now understand. There's actually an interview with, I forget her name, but one of the writers they brought in. She's, like, related to this other writer. I think she's, I want to say that she was, like, the daughter of Neil Gaiman, maybe? Shit, what was her name? And I know it's terrible to... I know that just totally sunk my argument that that's the reason I remember her, but I have a lot of, like, Neil Gaiman fans in my family. I know there's, like, a lot of fans of her dad in my family, and initially, because I hated the writing, I was really iffy about her and her writing. And then the interview, she not only wound up being like a way cool ass woman. No, I'm getting on the Googles. I'm finding out what her name was. Where's the pause button? Pratchett, motherfucker. That's why I couldn't think of it. Pratchett, Rihanna Pratchett, not Gaiman. Pratchett. Have Terry Pratchett fans in my family. So when I heard about Rihanna Pratchett being involved, I was like, are you related to Terry Pratchett? And then, yeah, and it's like, oh, okay. And I was initially, like, I hated the writing so much, and then I saw this interview with her, and not only did she wind up being totally fucking awesome, but she inadvertently revealed the exact problem with the writing. She was brought in halfway through development, and there were 5 fucking writers on that game. No wonder it was so badly written! Jeez! There were 5 different voices for Lara Croft, essentially. Like, word-rise voices, not like her actual voice. So there were 5 different people writing her in 5 different ways. Some of them wanted her to be more comical, some of them wanted her to be more tragic. It really didn't mesh together, and it wound up being a mishmash that made her sound like a psychopath. Did not like that character at all. But above all, the reason I didn't like this is there's this heavy implication that giving her more clothes and smaller breasts somehow makes her more able to be taken seriously. There's this undercurrent of that. And I'm like, that's kind of iffy, that just having smaller boobs makes, isn't that pretty sexist? And that's what a lot of people saying it was super progressive art. But I hate the people who hate it too, because they're like, oh, the camera's constantly following her ass. I hear this all the time. With third-person games with female leads, they complain that the camera is just glued to their ass, even though it's a normal-ass third-person camera. It's like you can't have third-person games with female leads. Certainly not ones that have a back view, because then you'll be staring at the butt. So, you have complaints about the camera staring at her ass, complaints anytime the camera is at any sort of an angle where you might maybe see down her shirt, complaints about the gruesome amount of damage she was taking, and they were like, isn't this sexist? And I've seen perfectly sane people make that argument. People who are pretty damn cool still wonder, isn't this a little sexist to see a woman get beat up this badly? It's like, not really. You're doing pretty brutal things to the male enemies in the game. It's pretty even, though the way the camera relishes in the amount of damage she takes is weird. I realized this was... I watched an episode of... extra credits, where they talked about true female characters. Well, the points they made was that women actually have a higher threshold for pain than men do. And I think they were actually trying to show that. I think that's what they were getting at with the sheer amount of how much she got beat up, was to make the viewer wince and go, oh, I would never be able to do that. That's... it was to horrify the viewer and to make them realize this character is stronger than you. She's surviving all of this pain that you would just not be able to do. But, I see people, they see all that getting beaten up, and they're like, isn't this sexist and misogynistic? And therein is what I find is the real sexism in video games. Whether you like it or hate it, people keep bringing sexism and misogyny into it. It can't just be a good game because of incredibly high production values and because people like the more action-packed setting and some of the cool set pieces they do. It can't just be a bad game because it's poorly written and generic and doesn't seem true to the core series. It has really horrifically unresponsive controls because they were trying to make her movement more fluid and it actually really detaches the player from the action. It can't be bad because of that either. I know I lean negative. I don't like that game. But it's like, it can't just be a good game or a bad game. No matter what, it's always about sexism. It's either progressive or regressive. Progressive or sexist and misogynistic. It can't just be that way. It can't just be a good game or a bad game. It has to be, because it has a female lead, it has to be judged on that level. It can't just be treated like that other hack reboot, DMC, which, you want to talk about weird? What was up with the reaction to DMC, eh? Anyone remember that? Alright, fan base sees it. They see that's a huge change from what they love. They don't like the reboot. Every damn game journalist got on their high horses and were like, we're better than you because we're going to wait until the game comes out to judge it. And to its credit, it is the best. I hate Ninja Theory games, but it's the best game Ninja Theory has ever made. Is actually not a bad game if we're talking gameplay-wise. It was surprisingly responsive. A little on the stiff side, and I hated the jumping. It was like Vega jumps, where you'd jump really high up in the air, and then you fall super fast. That was terrible for platforming. I hated all the tutorials in it, but generally speaking, gameplay was pretty alright. Easily the best thing Ninja Theory had ever done. Usually their controls are really unresponsive, so I liked the fact the controls were responsive this time. The stage design was great. So I'll give it credit there. But there was a lot about the character that I didn't like. The people who made it have openly admitted they don't like Devil May Cry. And the entire point of the game seemed to be to piss off Devil May Cry fans. And all the reviewers seem to give it these ridiculously inflated scores. And every single fucking review brought up the whiny fanboys. Oh, they're so unpleasable just because they changed Dante's hair. What a bunch of whiny babies, right? Ha ha ha, I'm gonna raise the score up a point just to piss them off. Look how much better I am than they are. look at how I'm so much fucking better than gamers because I like DMC and they don't. You know, DMC is the one game that actually offended me. Don't get offended easily. But the main menu is an animated image of not Dante sitting in a throne with his fingers at his crotch in sort of a gun shape, basically being sucked by stripper angels. And it's animated. He is getting an animated pseudo blowjob on the main menu. This is not only wildly out of character for Dante, because, like, as much of a cool guy as he tries to be, he kind of gets bossed around by women a lot, and he would not just, be sitting there in a chair getting a pseudo blowjob from a bunch of strippers. And indeed, the game even opens. The game opens with him going to a strip club and fucking 2 strippers. And that kind of bothered me. Because not only that was horribly out of character, it did nothing to really develop his character. I mean, kind of, he's a bad boy. But it's like, this is so not Dante. And what does it accomplish making the main menu be him getting a blowjob from a bunch of stripper angel hookers? What does that accomplish? Why is that the main menu? And they have every right to include that. Because I realized, well, we'll get to that later, but I was like, why is this the main menu? Why are you doing this? No one brought it up. No one called out DMC as basically being hack and slash Duke Nukem minus the tongue-in-cheek nature of it. Like, Duke Nukem was way less offensive to me than that game, because Duke Nukem was Duke Nukem, and we knew what we were getting into, but that, Dante essentially being Duke Nukem except a bit more of a dick, that kind of bothered me. And no one brought that up. No one decided to get offensive and outraged about that. Not even, like, I don't even want to sexualize or gender this conversation, but admittedly, not even the women who reviewed the game got offended by that. I didn't see anyone, and I actually feel kind of bad about that. Because it's very clear, when you play that game, that the people who made that game, who wrote that game, who put it together, they wanted people to be offended. I bet half the development budget went into writing the rebuttal to anyone who got offended by their game. Because that game is horribly offensive. And I get that was the point. They have every right to make a horribly offensive game, sure. But hold up. No one's going to call them out on this. Because that's what gamers want, and gamers are bad. So we have to prove we're better than gamers by liking this offensive game. But gamers get offended by DMC. They don't like that reboot. They're a bunch of whiny, entitled, privileged little shitheads. But someone doesn't like the character designs in Dragon's Crown. Someone doesn't like the content in Grand Theft Auto 5. Oh, well, they have every right to that opinion, and shame on gamers for ever being even remotely offended by them bringing their personal opinion into this. Speaking of, going back to that Mass Effect 3 ending, gamers are ruining video games as an art because how fucking dare they want that ending changed? How dare they? They are ruining the artistic vision by being angry about that artistic vision. How dare they? But Sorceress and Dragon's Crown, well, no art is beyond criticism. Now, sit here while I bash this character design and the person who drew it and call their character into question to the point of near slander while not looking at any of their other work because I'm a fuckwit and I just have to prove how much better I am than gamers because that's your fucking narrative. This whole damn time, this is what it's been about. It's been about your ego. It's been about feeling good about yourself. It's been about proving that you shitheads are better than gamers. You know? How fucked up is that? You're game journalists. You're supposed to be representing us. You're supposed to be trying to understand us. Aren't we your audience? If we're not, then shit, someone needs to start a website that's actually for gamers. Do you know how fucking awkward it is to be this deeply entrenched in a hobby and have the head people behind that hobby who are supposed to be representing you and giving you news and discussing things to people like you hating you? How fucked is that shit? Fuck me! You know what? I'm a gamer. I can't not be a gamer. I've been gaming since the day I was born. Gonna game till the day I die. One could even argue that I was gaming before I was born, because when I was in my mama's womb, she was playing the shit out of some Captain Fantastic pinball machines. It is in my blood. I am a gamer, and I am proud of that. And if you want to try to change that definition, if you want to make it so that way people who are gamers are sexist, misogynistic, horrible, awful people, then so fucking be it. That's not going to change my stance. I am a gamer, and I'm proud. Which actually brings me to one more thing. Gotta bring this up. I didn't want to bring up any names, but oh geez, is my computer going to restart? Oh geez, 12 minutes. Okay. Balls. So, I didn't want to name any names, but, I really wish there was a way to stop that. I recently stumbled across this image. It is currently August 31st. Supposedly on September 1st, someone is going to try to stage an assault, claim it was by a bunch of gamers, and try to stand alongside a bunch of other social justice warriors to renounce the term gamer. Now, this sounds like the most far-fetched, stupid piece of shit I've ever heard of. There is no way this could possibly be true. But the way I see it, better safe than sorry. Because, let me put it to you like this. If this doesn't come true, then it just shows how far this has come and what we're willing to believe. Which I don't even fully believe it yet. If this does come true, I want evidence. I want proof that I heard about this the day before it happened, that this was planned, that this was fake. Because, oh egad, people are going to run with this story if this comes to fruition. There's a good chance that the person in question will actually, cancel the idea. I hear at least one person involved with this canceled their appearance at PAX. I wouldn't be surprised if they canceled the plan because people found out about it. Fair enough. But should any part of this rather specific plan come to fruition, I just want proof that we knew ahead of time and that it was planned. Just in case. I'm paranoid. Better safe than sorry. So, here it is. August 31st. We are expecting this. Let us see if it happens. Anyway, this is Gel. And I'm a damn proud gamer, and fuck anyone that hates me. See ya!